I swear, the sheer audacity of some people. You won't believe the spectacle that unfolded at my own husband's memorial. I'm Susan Coleman, and if you're wondering why a woman of my years, who should be consumed by grief, is even talking about this, just wait. You're about to witness a masterclass in silent, ice-cold revenge. It's the kind of payback that tastes sweeter than any million-dollar dessert, and trust me, I've had them all. I was standing there, the weight of the past 40 years pressing on my chest, my hands clasped over the sleek fabric of my dress, when the silence, the only true solace in that cold, marble chapel, was brutally shattered. My God, mother-in-law, did you seriously come to your own husband's funeral in that cheap dress? It's embarrassing. You look like a pauper. That voice, shrill and utterly devoid of solemnity, belonged to Tiffany Albright. She cut through the atmosphere like a harsh, amateur theatrical slap. Every single eye in the chapel, and I mean every single eye, fixed on me. They weren't looking at me with sympathy. They were looking with judgment, and it was precisely the reaction Tiffany had intended to manufacture. My dress. My simple, black, high-necked dress, chosen specifically for its understated elegance and a cut so perfect it whispered wealth rather than shouting it. It seemed to deeply, offensively offend my 37-year-old daughter-in-law. What she didn't know, what none of the whispering onlookers knew, was that this cheap piece had actually cost me $80,000. You see, my dear Tiffany, that little detail about money is where the real story begins, and where your life, as you know it, is about to end. Tiffany, please, we're saying goodbye to Dad, whispered Michael, my only son, his voice strained and sounding completely ineffective, as usual. But Tiffany had already mounted her soapbox and found her audience. Never interrupt a villain mid-performance. No, Michael, someone has to say it, she announced, raising her chin like a B-movie diva. I work in high-end boutiques. I recognize quality when I see it. And this, she pointed a perfectly manicured, disdainful finger at the waist of my dress. This is a clearance rack special. Your mother has zero class, Michael. Zero. Her entourage of sheep, her friends, Karen and Deborah, nodded in perfect, synchronized agreement, their murmurs of "oh, Tiff's right," and "it's a shame," spreading a low wave of disapproval through the pews. The judgment wasn't subtle, it was a loud, public declaration designed to humiliate. I stood still, my hands clasped, my expression carefully calibrated to convey the deepest cut of hurt and embarrassment. But behind my tired, watery eyes, a silent, 72-year-old steel trap was snapping shut around my daughter-in-law's future. Poor Robert, Tiffany continued, raising her voice even louder, making sure the people in the back rows could hear the depth of my supposed disgrace. He must be turning over in his grave right now, seeing his widow didn't even have the respect to dress decently for his send-off. How humiliating for the entire family's reputation. I let a single tear slide down my cheek, but it wasn't a tear of sadness for Robert. My grief for him was too deep for public display. It was a tear of pure, incandescent, pent-up rage. This woman, this little viper, dared to humiliate me on the most painful and sacred day of my life, completely unaware that I was the owner of the very brand for which she worked as a mere, commission-hungry sales associate. Just look at her. She pressed on with her sickening performance. She can't even afford a decent dress. Michael, you really should give your mother some money so she can buy something appropriate. Maybe a gift certificate to a real store. I smiled internally, a small, dark twist of satisfaction. If she only knew. If she only knew that my walk-in closet held over 200 designer dresses, that my bank account had more zeros than there were days in the year, and that her pink slip, a legal document that would effectively render her and my son financially destitute, was already signed and waiting in the laser-engraved titanium safe in my secret study. Lisa, my 35-year-old daughter, who teaches high school history and has the good sense I hoped to instill, gently touched my arm. Mom, don't listen to her. She's being cruel. No, let her be, I whispered back, my voice sounding fragile and on the verge of breaking. The public record needed more data points. I needed Tiffany to keep digging her own professional grave. I needed the chapel to be a witness, a silent, moral jury for the destruction I was about to unleash. You know what, Michael? Tiffany dramatically redirected her voice toward my spineless son. When we have children, I hope they never end up like your mother. So utterly basic. She gave me a look of pitying disdain that was the crowning jewel of her performance. Look at her. She doesn't even know how to dress for such an important occasion. It's a tragedy, honestly. The snickers from Karen and Deborah grew louder. Karen, emboldened by the audience, even dared to contribute. It's true, Tiff. I work in retail, too, and that dress couldn't have cost more than $100. It's probably rayon at best. If they only knew that the mother-of-pearl buttons on my dress, each one hand-carved and set, cost $500 apiece. Exactly, Karen, Tiffany retorted, reveling in the confirmation. That's why I say she has no class. At the boutique where I work, we cater to sophisticated clients, women who truly understand fashion and elegance, right? She gestured toward me dismissively, as if indicating a particularly unsightly piece of street litter. Michael looked intensely uncomfortable. His face was a map of conflict, shame for his wife, embarrassment for his mother, and his characteristic desire to simply disappear. Typical. He'd always been a coward when it came to confronting his wife, a trait I'd long suspected but now had solid, undeniable proof of. Tiffany, that's enough, Lisa finally intervened, her voice firmer, though still respectful. No, let her be, I said finally, my voice soft, just a little broken, the perfect portrait of the emotionally defeated old woman. She's right. I don't understand these elegant things like she does. I'm just a simple woman. Tiffany smiled in triumphant satisfaction. At least you admit it. Look, mother-in-law, it's not your fault you were born without good taste, but you could at least make an effort not to embarrass the family in public. The family name means something, you know. Her friends applauded discreetly, the sound like the fluttering of tiny, poisonous wings. Deborah, the one with the falsely sympathetic air, added, "Oh, the poor thing. It must be hard not having the resources to dress appropriately. It's not her fault she's limited." Precisely. Tiffany continued, emboldened by the perceived victory. Imagine showing up to your own husband's funeral dressed like you're running to Walmart for groceries. She just has no common sense. It's mind-boggling, truly. The whispers intensified throughout the chapel. I could hear fragments. What a shame. The poor woman. How embarrassing for Michael. Perfect. The more people who witness this public humiliation, the more witnesses I would have for the moral justification of my impending act. The sweeter my revenge would be. And those shoes, Tiffany went on, her gaze now dropping to my feet, where I wore a pair of classic black pumps. They look like something you'd find at a flea market. Goodness, if I were her, I'd be ashamed to leave the house like that. Those pumps. A custom, hand-stitched pair that cost $12,000. She would never know. The depth of her ignorance was as delicious as a fine vintage port. Look, mother-in-law, she said, leaning in toward me with a condescending pity that made my skin crawl. I know you don't have much money, but the next time you need to dress for something important, I can lend you something from my wardrobe. I have connections at the best stores. Don't worry, I'll help you. The irony was exquisite. This woman, who earned a base salary of barely $3,000 a month selling my clothing in my boutique, was offering to lend me dresses. If she only knew that I personally signed her paycheck, reviewed her performance reports, and held the keys to her entire professional existence. That's very kind of you, Tiffany, I replied in a trembling voice, ensuring the performance was flawless. But I wouldn't want to cause you any trouble. I'll manage. It's no trouble at all. It's Christian charity, she responded with a smile so fake it belonged on a mannequin. It's what any decent person would do in my place. I feel sorry for you. Her friends murmured their approval. Karen even commented, "You're an angel, Tiff." Not everyone would be so generous to someone so limited. Limited. The word echoed in my mind, a tiny, explosive charge of pure fury. If they only knew that my limitation included owning 17 luxury boutiques, 3 textile factories in Europe, and a personal fortune exceeding $100 million. Furthermore, Tiffany added, now addressing the entire congregation with the air of a self-appointed moral lecturer, I think we can all learn a lesson from this. The importance of education, of having aspirations, of not settling for mediocrity. The discreet applause confirmed that she had achieved her goal, turning my husband Robert's funeral into her personal stage for moral superiority. Poor Robert, she sighed, a theatrical, pitying sound. He was always worried about his mother-in-law. He used to say he didn't know how she'd manage without him. He was right about one thing. My late husband Robert always worried about me, but not for the reasons she imagined. He knew my heart was too kind, that I forgave too easily. He always told me, Susan, the day I'm gone, don't let anyone trample on you. Some people confuse kindness with weakness. That day had arrived. After the nauseating spectacle Tiffany created at the funeral, I drove home in my battered 2015 Honda Civic, a car I deliberately chose years ago to maintain my facade as a poor, helpless widow. The truth was, my private, temperature-controlled garage, located beneath a discreet holding company warehouse downtown, held a Bentley Continental GT, a Mercedes S-Class armored sedan, and a Porsche 911 Targa that no one in my family, except Robert, knew about. But today, I needed to continue being the Susan everyone thought they knew, the unrefined mother-in-law, the widow without resources, the woman who, according to my daughter-in-law, had no trace of elegance. The trap had to remain perfectly set. Arriving at my modest, two-bedroom apartment, I slipped off my $12,000 pumps and poured myself a glass of wine. Not just any wine, but a vintage Bordeaux that cost $5,000 a bottle. But to the outside world, I was the lady who bought boxed Merlot at the grocery store. The facade was everything. My phone rang. It was Lisa, my daughter. Mom, I'm so sorry about what happened today. Tiffany behaved horribly. It was vile. Don't worry, sweetheart, I replied in a tired, brittle voice. I'm used to her comments. She's just a young girl. But it's not right, Mom, to act like that at Dad's funeral. It's inhuman. You should file a formal complaint. You should tell Michael what she really said. Lisa didn't know the truth about my financial situation. I had decided years ago, with Robert's full agreement, to keep my own children in the dark. It was safer that way, less complicated, and it allowed me to truly see the people around me for who they were, without the filter of money or influence. It gave me a clean read on character. I'm going to talk to Michael tomorrow, Lisa continued, her voice full of righteous anger. He can't let his wife treat you like that. He has to grow a spine. No, please don't do that, Lisa. I don't want to cause trouble in their marriage. It's over now. But the trouble was already brewing. Tiffany didn't know it yet, but her employer would receive a very specific and entirely non-charitable phone call tomorrow. The first move had been made. After hanging up, I went to my secret study, a room none of my children knew about, cleverly hidden behind a seemingly normal, floor-to-ceiling bookshelf. A flick of a hidden switch and a hydraulic mechanism hissed open the heavy, oak panel. There, in the softly lit, air-conditioned room, lay my true treasures, the contracts for my companies, the financial statements for my boutiques, and, of course, the personnel files for all my employees, including Tiffany Albright, sales associate, level 2. At my downtown flagship store, with a base salary of $3,000 a month plus commission. I opened her file. Her history was, predictably, a trail of minor professional misconduct. 3 warnings for tardiness, 2 customer complaints about a dismissive, snobbish attitude, and a supervisor's report specifically noting her unwarranted air of superiority. Perfect. I was not just firing her for a personal vendetta, I was firing a documented liability who consistently damaged my company's most valuable asset, its reputation for gracious, egalitarian service. I picked up my private, satellite-encrypted phone, the one I only used for business matters of the highest sensitivity, and dialed Janice. Janice had been my HR director for 15 years and was a woman who understood the language of discretion and corporate ruthlessness. Miss Coleman, I'm so very sorry for your loss, Janice said, her voice genuinely subdued. Thank you, Janice, but I need you to handle a personal matter tomorrow. It can't wait. Of course. Name it, Susan. Tiffany Albright, employee at the downtown boutique. I want you to meticulously review her performance over the last 6 months. Every single incident. Every missed target. Every customer comment. Any specific issues I should be looking for? Janice asked. She knew better than to ask why. Let's just say she's demonstrated a profound lack of respect for customers that I simply do not tolerate in my company. And Janice, if you find anything at all, that suggests misuse of company property, excessive personal phone use, or fraudulent activity, document it with a timestamp. Be thorough. Janice understood perfectly. She knew that when I spoke in this precise tone, things were beyond serious. They were terminal. Understood, Miss Coleman. You want me to prepare the documentation for disciplinary action or termination. Prepare everything I instructed. But we'll wait for the right moment to serve it. I want a complete, undeniable case built. Every single detail. After hanging up, I sat in my Italian leather chair, the silence of the hidden room a stark contrast to the chaos of the day. Tiffany's public humiliation had only been the appetizer. She had no idea she had just declared war on the wrong person. Robert was right. Some people do confuse kindness with weakness. For 40 years of our marriage, he had been my protective shield, the pragmatic anchor to my artistic soul. Together, we built an empire from scratch, always keeping to the shadows, always pretending to be a regular, comfortable middle-class family. But Robert wasn't here to protect me from vipers like Tiffany anymore. Now, I would have to protect myself, and I would do it with the style and surgical precision that only a 72-year-old woman with 50 years of business experience could command. The Widow's Gambit, Part 2 continuation. The next day, while Tiffany was undoubtedly bragging on social media about her act of Christian charity and offering to lend me her slightly too small clothes, I was in my executive office, a completely different one, located in the corporate headquarters, reviewing the numbers for all my companies. My personal assistant, an efficient woman named Estelle, who had been with me even longer than Janice, walked in with a coffee tray. The monthly reports, Miss Coleman, she said, placing a towering pile of documents on my custom-built mahogany desk. How are sales looking at the downtown boutique, Estelle? I asked, my eyes scanning the overall profit and loss statement. Excellent numbers this quarter, ma'am. The new collections have been very well received. The personnel, however. Estelle hesitated for a moment. Tell me. Tiffany Albright has had several incidents with clients. Apparently, she makes comments about who can and cannot afford certain pieces. A recent complaint mentioned she made a client feel deeply unwelcome, suggesting they shop elsewhere. Interesting. My daughter-in-law was not only a personal liability, she was a professional one. She had not only humiliated me but was actively driving away my customers with her snobbish, classist attitude. Anything else, Estelle? Yes, ma'am. The security cameras caught some questionable behavior. She uses her personal phone for hours during work. She's constantly late. And just yesterday, she was seen taking photos with a $5,000 clutch that she clearly did not purchase, in front of the window display, presumably for social media clout. Every word was another nail hammered into her professional coffin. Estelle, I want you to schedule a meeting with me for next Friday, not here, but at the downtown boutique itself. I want all of the management team there. No exceptions. Any specific reason for the meeting, ma'am? Should I prepare an agenda? I smiled for the first time since Robert's funeral, a genuine, chilling smile of anticipation. Tell them it's time to make some personnel changes. And make sure Tiffany is working that day, Estelle. I want her there. The week that followed the funeral unfolded like a perfectly orchestrated symphony of family hypocrisy. Tiffany took every opportunity to remind everyone how generous she had been with me, offering her wardrobe, her connections, her expert fashion advice. She even posted a vague, virtue-signaling message on her social media about the importance of lifting up those who are less fortunate. On Wednesday morning, I received a call from Michael, my son. Mom, Tiffany told me she offered to help you out with your wardrobe situation. Was she a little too harsh? I told her she needs to be sensitive. Yes, Michael, she was very kind, I replied, maintaining the submissive, frail widow voice. Look, Mom, I know Dad handled all the finances, and things must be tough for you now. If you need any money, even a few hundred, I can talk to Tiffany, and we can try to help you out. Don't worry. How ironic. My own son offering me money when I could buy his entire, overpriced apartment building with the cash in my personal safe. Don't worry, Michael. I'll manage with your father's pension for now. We were thrifty. Are you sure? Because Tiffany says your apartment looks pretty basic, and your clothes. Well, she's worried about your image. Your wife is right, Michael. I don't understand fashion like she does. She's the expert. I could practically hear the satisfaction in his voice. Well, she really knows the business, Mom. She works at one of the city's most exclusive boutiques. Her bosses really trust her. She's indispensable there. If only he knew I was the exact boss they trusted so much. She must be very talented, Michael, I murmured, stoking his belief in her fabricated success. She is. In fact, she's expecting a promotion. Her supervisor told her there's a good chance she'll be moved up to junior manager by the end of the month. We are going to celebrate. Interesting information. Janice hadn't mentioned anything about promotions for Tiffany. My daughter-in-law was likely inventing the story to impress my son and inflate her own ego. I'm happy for her, Michael. That sounds promising. Yeah, and you know what, Mom? When she gets promoted, we'll be earning more money, and we can help you out more often. Maybe we can even take you shopping to some decent places. Get you out of that old Honda. Every word that came out of my son's mouth, focused on the superficial and the material, felt like another stab. How had I raised a man so blind to his wife's cruelty and so easily impressed by shallow aspirations? That's very considerate of you, son. I appreciate the thought. After hanging up, I immediately called Estelle. Estelle, I need information on any rumors of a promotion for Tiffany Albright. Is there any truth to her being considered for junior manager? None whatsoever, Miss Coleman. In fact, her direct supervisor, Diane, told me yesterday she's considering putting her on formal probation because of her consistently poor attitude with clients and misuse of company time. Perfect. The web of lies was exactly as intricate as I had suspected. Do you have the financial reports I asked for ready? Yes, ma'am. Documented incidents, security recordings, and testimonials from clients who complained about her behavior, all prepared by Janice. It's a textbook case of termination for cause. Excellent work. Now, I need you to do one more thing. I want you to discreetly investigate Tiffany and Michael's personal financial situation, income, expenses, debts, everything. I need the full picture. Estelle asked no questions. After 20 years of working with me, she knew that when I requested financial information on someone, I had my reasons, and they were always connected to imminent, life-changing action. On Thursday afternoon, the results arrived on my desk, and they were even better than I expected. Michael and Tiffany were living completely above their means. Their apartment cost $3,500 a month, which was more than Tiffany's entire base salary. They had credit card debts exceeding $40,000, a car loan of $22,000 for a flashy, new SUV they couldn't afford, and they had requested a salary advance from the boutique last month to cover an overdue utility bill. But the most delightful detail, the exquisite, clinch-the-revenge detail, was that they had recently applied for a mortgage to buy a $250,000 house, using Tiffany's imminent promotion and future raise as the collateral guarantee. The house of their dreams, the future they had planned, all depended on an ascent that was never, ever going to materialize. The sheer terror of this financial reality would be the final, crushing blow. The Widow's Gambit, Part 3, The Trap. Friday arrived faster than expected. I dressed in my most understated yet absolutely lethal executive attire, a black Chanel suit I had purchased in Paris the year before, paired with my authentic, heirloom Mikimoto pearls. Nothing flashy, nothing to scream, "Look at me," but any real fashion expert, would immediately recognize the immeasurable quality and the staggering investment. At 10 o'clock in the morning, I arrived at the downtown boutique. My boutique. "Good morning, Miss Coleman," Diane, the supervisor, greeted me, using my married name as she always did in public to maintain my corporate anonymity. The managers are waiting for you in the office on the second floor. Janice is here as well. I walked slowly through the store, observing every detail. The employees worked diligently, attending to clients with professionalism and grace. All except one. Tiffany was leaning on the main counter, talking loudly on her personal cell phone, laughing with complete abandon. Her uniform was wrinkled, her makeup was overdone, and her attitude was completely inappropriate for the sophisticated environment of my establishment. "Girl, you won't believe this," I heard her say into the phone, her voice carrying across the polished marble floor. "My mother-in-law is so pathetic. I swear, Michael told me yesterday we can take her shopping when I get promoted. Imagine having to teach a 70-year-old woman how to dress. I'm practically running the family finances now." She laughed at her own cruelty while a client, a silver-haired woman looking at a silk scarf, waited patiently to be served. Yeah, I work at the most exclusive boutique in the city. My boss is super cool. She trusts me a lot. In fact, she's making me a junior manager next week. Big news, right? Lies piled upon lies. Fascinating. So, my mother-in-law showed up to her husband's funeral dressed like a charity case. I swear it looked like she bought her dress at Burlington. I was so secondhand embarrassed. I had to say something. The waiting client moved to another counter, clearly annoyed by the lack of service and the volume of Tiffany's gossip. "You know what's the funniest part?" Tiffany continued, oblivious to everything. "She actually thinks her dress was elegant. The poor old lady has no idea what real fashion is." It was at that precise moment, standing 3 feet behind her, that I decided to approach. The script was about to be flipped. "Excuse me," I said softly, my voice quiet, almost frail, the same voice I had used at the funeral. Tiffany whirled around, annoyed at the interruption, and for a split second, a look of confusion crossed her face. She recognized me, but she had never seen me dressed appropriately before, not in a suit that cost more than her annual salary. "Oh, mother-in-law, what are you doing here?" she asked, covering the phone with her hand, her annoyance barely concealed. "Did you follow me?" "I came to do some shopping," I replied innocently. "Michael gave me some money and said you could help me choose something appropriate. I need your expertise." Her attitude changed instantly. The idea of teaching me how to dress visibly excited her, a chance to continue her performance of moral and fashionable superiority. "Got to go," she told her friend into the phone. "I have to help my mother-in-law stop making a fool of herself. It's an emergency. Bye." She hung up and looked me up and down with barely concealed disdain. "All right, mother-in-law. First, we need to establish a budget. How much did Michael give you? Because things aren't cheap here. It's not like that flea market you usually shop at. We don't do bargains." "Michael gave me $500, I lied, setting the trap shallowly enough for her to step right into it. Tiffany actually laughed out loud, a harsh, grating sound. $500? Oh my God. With $500 here, you can barely afford a pair of earrings. But fine, let's see what we can do with so little." She led me to the accessories section, the cheapest part of the store. "Look, mother-in-law, these scarves are on sale. They're $200 each, but they're very pretty. They could add a touch of class to your style. It's the best you can do with that budget." She picked up one of the silk scarves, a piece from my spring collection from last year, and showed it to me condescendingly. "See the quality of the silk? This is what true elegance is, not those rags you normally wear." "It's very beautiful," I admitted. "Right? I have a good eye for these things. That's why my bosses are going to promote me. They recognize my talent." Just then, Diane, the supervisor, approached us. "Tiffany, Miss Coleman is waiting for you in the office upstairs. She's asked for you specifically." Tiffany paled slightly. "Miss Coleman, my boss, is here?" "Yes, she arrived a few minutes ago. She said it was urgent, and that you needed to attend immediately." I could see the panic and the sudden, frantic confusion in Tiffany's eyes. "But I'm helping a client. This is important." "I'll take care of the lady," Diane intervened diplomatically, giving me a quick, professional nod I was certain Tiffany missed. Tiffany looked at me with annoyance. "Mother-in-law, I have a very important work matter to attend to." My promotion, you know. I'll be back in a few minutes to keep helping you. Yes, of course, dear. Go attend to your important matters. I'll just wait here patiently. I watched her nervously walk away toward the offices on the second floor, completely unaware that she was heading straight for her professional destruction and a revelation that would shatter her world. The hook was set. While Tiffany nervously went up to the office, expecting to find the corporate owner and HR director there waiting for her, and likely assuming they were there to discuss her non-existent promotion, I stayed downstairs, savoring the irony of the situation. Diane, my trusted supervisor, approached me with a knowing, yet completely professional, smile. How was the performance, ma'am? Do you need a new script? Better than I expected, Diane. That woman just sealed her professional fate with her own words. The security recordings caught the entire phone conversation and her behavior toward me. It's all on tape. Do you want me to go up now? She's quite agitated, ma'am. Let's wait a few more minutes. I want her to get good and nervous wondering where I am and why her big promotion meeting hasn't started yet. I want the suspense to build. Meanwhile, I decided to take a walk through my store, observing how it functioned without my visible presence. The employees worked professionally, serving every customer with courtesy and knowledge, all except the one who had just gone upstairs. I approached one of the younger sales associates, a bright-eyed girl named Chloe, whom I had personally hired 6 months ago after an exhaustive interview process focused on values. "Excuse me," I said, pretending to be a regular client. "What do you think of the service from the young woman who was here a moment ago? The one with the curly hair." Chloe looked up nervously before answering. "You mean Tiffany? She's a colleague." "Yes, I think that was her name. Just curious." She seemed very confident in her opinions. The girl hesitated for a moment, clearly uncomfortable. "Well, ma'am, it's not really my place to comment on my colleagues. I'd rather help you. What can I get for you today?" Her diplomacy, her professional loyalty impressed me. She was exactly the type of employee I valued, discreet, focused, and loyal to the overall team, not the petty drama. "I'm actually just waiting for someone," I assured her. "But tell me, have you worked here long?" 6 months. It's my first job in luxury retail, and I really love it. The training was excellent. And what's the work environment like? Does everyone get along? Chloe glanced toward the stairs again. Most of my colleagues are wonderful, very professional, always willing to help. But she stopped herself. I probably shouldn't say this, but some people think working here gives them the right to treat others badly, as if the boutique's glamour went to their head. It's disappointing. Exactly what I suspected, I murmured. Have you seen specific situations of this kind of attitude? Well, yes, ma'am. I've seen how some employees judge customers by their appearance before serving them, as if they decide who can and cannot afford to shop here. That goes against everything we were taught in training. And what did they teach you in training, Chloe? That all customers deserve the same respect and attention, regardless of how they look or dress. That our boss, Miss Coleman, says that true elegance comes from respect and humility, not arrogance. She emphasizes character over bank accounts. My heart swelled with pride. My values were being transmitted correctly, at least to the employees who were worth keeping. "Your boss sounds like a very wise woman," I said, my voice rich with satisfaction. "She is, although I've never seen her in person. Everyone raves about her. They say she started from the bottom and built this empire with hard work and solid principles. She's a legend." Just then, I saw Tiffany descending the stairs with a look of utter confusion mixed with annoyance. She walked directly toward me, her eyes scanning the floor, still looking for the elusive Miss Coleman. "Mother-in-law, didn't anyone serve you yet?" "What terrible service," she said, clearly frustrated at not having found her boss upstairs. "This young lady was taking very good care of me," I replied, gesturing toward Chloe. Tiffany looked at Chloe disdainfully. "Oh, she's new. She doesn't know anything. I'm the expert here. I've been here longer and have more experience." Chloe discreetly stepped away, but I could see in her eyes that she had perfectly understood the kind of person Tiffany was. "Did you find your boss?" I asked innocently. "No, it seemed she had to leave suddenly, but it doesn't matter." She was probably just going to tell me about my promotion. She always seeks me out for important things. The lies kept accumulating, even to my face. Well, in the meantime, we could continue looking at clothes for me then. Of course, mother-in-law. But first, let me tell you something important. When I get promoted to manager, I'm going to implement a lot of changes here, especially in customer service. We need to elevate the brand. What kind of changes, Tiffany? For example, I'm going to establish a dress code for clients. We can't have just anyone walking in here dressed any old way. This is a luxury boutique, not a bargain mart. The wrong type of person damages the atmosphere. Every word was more revealing than the last, a direct confirmation of the classism that permeated her core. And if someone doesn't meet your code, Tiffany, well, I'll politely suggest they go to stores more appropriate for their level. It's for everyone's good. The real clients feel uncomfortable when they see people who clearly don't belong here. It's just good business sense. Interesting philosophy, I murmured, my voice a delicate, dangerous thread. Exactly. My boss will be so proud when she sees how I improve the store's image. She'll probably give me a bonus for the initiative. She led me to the most expensive dress section of the store, ironically toward my own most exclusive, haute couture creations. Look, mother-in-law, these dresses are gorgeous, but they're obviously out of your budget. They cost between $5,000 and $15,000 each. Don't even touch them. She picked up one of my favorite designs, a champagne-colored gown with hand-embroidered details. See this quality? This is true haute couture. I have a similar one at home. A very important client who was thrilled with my service gifted it to me. Another lie. Employees were strictly forbidden from accepting client gifts, and I personally reviewed all sales reports. It's lovely, I admitted, touching the fine, silk fabric. Yes, but it's definitely not for you. We need to find you something more realistic, something that matches your current style. She directed me toward a back section where clearance items from past seasons were located. Here are things more in your price range. Look, this gray dress is marked down to $400. It's perfect for ladies your age. It hides the figure. The dress she was showing me was indeed from my collection, but from 3 years ago, a design I had discontinued because it simply didn't meet my quality standards. What do you think of this dress, Tiffany? Is it classy enough? Honestly, it's not much, but for someone like you, it's fine. You don't have the figure or the presence to wear the truly exclusive pieces. Just accept your limitations. Her words hurt me, but not for the reason she thought. It hurt to know that such a cruel, superficial, and classist person worked at my company, representing my values to the public. You know what, Tiffany? I said finally, my voice regaining a hint of its natural, commanding tone. I think you're right about my lack of style. She smiled triumphantly. I'm glad you recognize it. It's the first step toward improvement. But I have one question for you. Tell me, what would happen if someone pretended to be poor but actually had a lot of money? How should you treat that person? Tiffany laughed, a deep, dismissive sound that bounced off the walls. Oh, mother-in-law, that only happens in the movies. Rich people don't walk around disguised as poor people. That's ridiculous. But hypothetically, if someone comes in here dressed like you, they definitely don't have money. It's impossible for someone with real resources to dress so basically. They want to show it off. I see. Very logical reasoning. That's why I'm good at this job, mother-in-law. I know how to read people. I know exactly who can afford what and how to treat them accordingly. At that precise moment, Estelle, my personal assistant, entered the store discreetly. She saw me, gave a minute, imperceptible nod, and approached. Ma'am, they're waiting for you in the office, she said with a professional, but entirely familiar smile. Tiffany looked at her strangely. Excuse me, who are you? And why are you interrupting me? I'm Miss Coleman's personal assistant, Estelle replied matter-of-factly. And what does my mother-in-law have to do with your boss? Tiffany demanded, her confusion deepening. Estelle looked directly at me, awaiting instructions. I nodded slightly, the tiniest, most significant movement of the day. Your mother-in-law, Tiffany, Estelle replied, turning slowly back to the astonished sales associate, is my boss. The color drained completely from Tiffany's face. The blood left her cheeks and her lips turned a pale, sickly white. The silence that followed Estelle's words was deafening, more shocking than any shout. The trap had snapped shut. The Widow's Gambit, Part 4, The Execution. Tiffany looked at me as if she had seen a ghost, her face cycling through every shade from chalk white to pale green. What? What did you say? No. You're lying, she stammered, grasping the counter to keep from falling, her composure utterly shattered. What you heard, Tiffany, Estelle replied with professional, surgical calm. Susan Coleman is the founder and owner of this entire chain of boutiques and 3 European factories. She is the majority shareholder of the building you are standing in. Tiffany spun around to face me, her eyes wide with a terror that was deeply, fundamentally satisfying. No, it can't be. You live in that small apartment. You drive that old Honda. Your clothes. My $80,000 clothes, Tiffany, I interrupted gently, finally letting the fragile, broken voice dissolve into one of ice and steel. The dress that bothered you so much at my husband Robert's funeral. That one. $80,000, she repeated like a broken echo, completely unable to process the number. The same dress you considered clearance rack material. The same $12,000 custom pumps you said looked like they came from the flea market. The ones you mocked. Her words came out in broken, panicked gasps. But I've been working for you for 2 years. You know my husband. This is unfair. That's right, Tiffany. And during those 2 years, I've received multiple reports about your inappropriate behavior with clients and your consistent lack of professionalism. It was never personal until the funeral. Estelle pulled a slender folder from her purse. Would you like me to read the reports, ma'am? I think Tiffany needs to hear exactly what her supervisors have documented about her character. Please, Estelle. Let's start with the one from last spring. Tiffany slumped into a nearby, plush chair, completely in shock. Report from March 15th, Estelle began, her voice clear and without emotion. Client complained that employee Tiffany Albright ignored her for 20 minutes because she arbitrarily determined the client did not have the economic profile to shop at the store. That is a direct violation of Section A, Paragraph 4 of the Code of Conduct. No, that's not. Report from April 22nd. A 60-year-old client was treated with contempt and condescension, being directed only to clearance items without being asked her preferences or budget. The client was visibly distressed. Each report was a clear, sharp slap of reality to Tiffany's face, exposing her professional hypocrisy. Report from May 8th. Employee was seen using her personal phone for 2 hours of her shift, ignoring multiple customers and posting photographs of company merchandise for personal gain on social media. The post has been archived as evidence. I can explain all of that, she stammered, tears beginning to pour down her face. What are you going to explain, Tiffany? I asked, my voice tranquil, cold, and heavy with undeniable authority. Are you going to explain how you decided to publicly humiliate me at my husband's funeral? Or would you prefer to explain how you just told me 10 minutes ago that you determine the value of people based solely on their appearance? The entire exchange is on the security recording. Tiffany was openly sobbing now, her mascara running down her cheeks. Ma'am, I didn't know. If I had only known who you really were. Exactly, Tiffany. That is the entire problem. Your respect for people depends on their economic status. You're only kind to those you think have money. Tell me, what would you have done differently at the funeral if you had known who I really was? I never would have. You never would have what? You never would have shown your true personality? You never would have revealed how cruel, superficial, and classist you are deep down? The truth is what matters, not the performance. Tiffany's crying intensified. Please, Miss Coleman, it was a terrible misunderstanding. I respect you very much. I've always respected you. You respected me 5 minutes ago when you told me I didn't have the figure or the presence to wear quality clothes. That was your true opinion of your mother-in-law, the woman who raised the man you love. That was your character speaking. Other employees had begun gathering discreetly, not coming too close, but clearly aware that something major and highly dramatic was happening. Estelle, I told my assistant, my eyes never leaving Tiffany's despairing face, could you read the report from this morning, please? Of course, ma'am. Report from this morning, Friday. Employee Tiffany Albright was recorded by security cameras speaking disparagingly about a client who turned out to be her family member, violating multiple company privacy and professionalism policies. Furthermore, there is a clear recording of the employee lying to a customer about her job title and imminent promotion. Also, I added, my voice cutting through the air like ice. She lied about a non-existent promotion to impress her husband and applied for a mortgage based on that lie. I know about the loan, Tiffany. Her face went from pale to ghostly. How do you know about the loan? That's personal. That's an invasion of privacy. Tiffany, I know everything I need to know about the people who work for me, especially when those people happen to be family. Estelle, the financial investigation, please. Estelle continued, the financial investigation shows debts of over $60,000, expenses exceeding family income by 300%, and multiple unreported salary advances, which were paid by the company on the understanding they were for a family emergency. Unreported, I repeated, my voice rising slightly. Which means on top of everything else, you've been lying on your company financial documents to secure personal funds. Ma'am, please, I can explain everything. I needed the money to maintain a lifestyle you can't afford, to flaunt wealth you don't possess while belittling others for their apparent lack of resources. You are the pauper, Tiffany. The true irony of the situation is perfect. Tiffany, I said, my voice growing even colder. I want you to understand something very important. I'm not bothered that you didn't know who I was. I'm bothered by how you treated the person you thought I was. But ma'am, I'm sorry. I'm bothered that you considered it appropriate to humiliate a 72-year-old widow at her husband's funeral. And I'm deeply bothered that you base your respect for other human beings on the price tag of their clothing. That is a moral failure. It wasn't my intention. It wasn't your intention to show your true character, because that is exactly what you did. I turned toward Estelle. Do you have the documents ready, Janice? Yes, ma'am. Everything is prepared. Tiffany looked at us with mounting terror. What documents? What is this? Your termination papers, of course, Tiffany. Effective immediately. No, please. I need this job. We have debts. Payments. The new house? The new house you plan to buy with money from a promotion that never existed. You built your life on a foundation of sand and lies. Please, Miss Coleman, I swear I'll change. I'll be different. I'll be humble. You'll change out of convenience, Tiffany. You are 37 years old. If you haven't learned to treat people with basic, human respect by this age, you're not going to learn it now. But it's my family. I'm your daughter-in-law. You can't do this to family. Exactly. You're my daughter-in-law, and that makes your behavior even more unforgivable. It was a betrayal. Estelle handed me the folder. The termination documents, ma'am. Thank you, Estelle. I took the folder and showed it to Tiffany. Here is your letter of termination. You are no longer an employee of this company. You can't do this. It's personal revenge. It's family persecution. Personal revenge? I laughed softly, a dry, cold sound. Tiffany, this is simple application of business policy, customer mistreatment, misuse of work time, lies on official documents, and multiple violations of the code of conduct. You earned this termination. But I need this job. My husband, Michael, will. Your husband, Michael, is going to find out many things today, I interrupted, my voice dropping to a low, powerful register, including exactly who the woman he married is and how she treats his mother when she thinks no one important is watching. Tiffany's tears had turned into desperate, ragged sobs. Please, I beg you, give me one more chance. Don't ruin my life. You already had your chance, Tiffany. You had it during 2 years of working here, and especially, you had it on the day of the funeral when you could have chosen to show compassion instead of cruelty. You chose cruelty. But I didn't know. And that, Tiffany, is exactly the point. Your true character shows when you think there are no consequences. Estelle, I said to my assistant, my voice sharp and decisive while Tiffany continued to sob. Please call security to escort the terminated employee out of the building. She is no longer permitted on the premises. No, wait. Tiffany screamed, standing up desperately. It can't end like this. I'm family. I'm family. Family behaves with mutual respect, Tiffany. You decided to break that bond. I swear I'll change. Give me one last chance. Like the chance you gave me on the day of the funeral? Like the consideration you showed when you decided to turn the most painful moment of my life into your personal show of superiority? I am not your victim, Tiffany. Tiffany approached me with her hands clasped, literally begging. Miss Coleman, please think about Michael. Think about your son. If you take my job, you'll ruin our marriage. I'll ruin your marriage? I looked at her with genuine disbelief. Tiffany, you ruined your marriage the day you decided to publicly humiliate your husband's mother and base your entire financial future on a stack of lies. The foundation of your life was rotten. But he'll hate me. He won't understand the pressure I was under. He won't. Oh, he'll understand perfectly, I promised her, my eyes gleaming with finality. Especially when I show him the security recordings from today. Her face fell even further, if that were possible. Recordings? Every word you said about me, about my clothes, about my supposed lack of class, every cruel comment you made on the phone thinking no one important was listening. It's all archived, Tiffany. Estelle intervened discreetly. Security is on the way, ma'am. They will be here in 1 minute. Perfect. I turned back to Tiffany. You now have approximately 5 minutes to clear out your locker and turn in your employee badge. This is the end of this conversation. This is an abuse of power. It's revenge, she hissed, the begging turning into raw, hateful anger. Abuse of power? My voice hardened into a low, terrifying rasp. Tiffany, the abuse of power was when you humiliated a 72-year-old woman in front of her entire family because you thought you could do it without consequences. My power is simply the consequence. But you have millions. I only have this job. And whose fault is that? Did I force you to live beyond your means? Did I force you to lie about non-existent promotions? Did I tell you to apply for loans based on fantasies? You made your choices. Chloe, the young employee who had talked to me earlier, approached timidly. Ma'am, do you need anything? Yes, Chloe. I want you to observe this very carefully. This is a lesson on why we treat all customers with the same respect, no matter how they look. Tiffany looked at me with pure hatred. You're going to use this for lessons? You monster. Exactly. Your behavior will serve as the perfect example in our future training sessions on what not to do. It's a teachable moment. It's humiliating. Humiliating. I laughed without humor. Tiffany, you humiliated me at my husband's funeral in front of my family, my friends, people I'd known for decades, and you did it for sport. I was only trying to help her. Help me? By calling me classless? By telling everyone I looked like a pauper? The other employees had now gathered closer, clearly fascinated by the drama unfolding. I could see in their faces a mix of shock and, I must admit, satisfaction at finally seeing consequences for Tiffany's toxic behavior. Miss Coleman, Diane, my supervisor, intervened. Do you want us to document this entire incident to share with the other branches? As a formal warning. Excellent idea, Diane. Let it serve as a warning about the consequences of mistreating customers. This is our new policy. Tiffany turned to Diane desperately. Diane, you know I'm a good worker. Say something. Diane looked at her with an expression mixing compassion and deep disappointment. Tiffany, I gave you multiple warnings about your attitude with clients, especially the older ladies. But I never thought it would come to this. You never thought what? I asked directly, stepping in. That the older ladies deserved respect? That they might have more money than they appear to? That they might be connected to important people? Why the double standard, Tiffany? It's not that. It's just she stopped, clearly unable to answer without admitting her true nature. Because you thought you could do it without consequences, I completed for her, delivering the final, inescapable truth. Because you thought I was just a poor old lady who had no power to fight back. You picked the wrong victim. Just then, 2 security guards arrived. Miss Coleman? We are here to escort the individual. Yes. Please escort Miss Albright while she gathers her personal belongings. She no longer works here. Tiffany walked toward her locker with slumped shoulders, escorted by security. But before she reached it, she turned back to me one last time, her eyes burning with pure, distilled resentment. What are you going to tell Michael? What are you going to say to my husband? I'm going to tell him the truth, Tiffany. I'm going to show him exactly who the woman he married is. He loves me. He won't care about a dress. He won't care that his wife humiliated his mother at his father's funeral. He won't care that you lied about your job to secure loans. He won't care that you put them in a desperate financial situation because of your fantasies of grandeur. You are betting on your husband's moral indifference, Tiffany. Tiffany had no answer for that. As she cleared out her locker, I addressed the employees who had witnessed everything. I want you all to understand something very important, I said, my voice commanding attention. In my stores, we treat every customer as if they were the most important person in the world, regardless of how they dress or how much money they appear to have. They all nodded solemnly. And do you know why? Chloe timidly raised her hand. Because it's the right thing to do, Miss Coleman. Exactly, Chloe. Because it's the right thing to do, but also because we never know who the person standing in front of us truly is. Like you today, another employee asked, her eyes wide with realization. Like me today. But more importantly, like anyone who walks through that door. Every customer deserves respect, kindness, and professional attention. Don't ever forget that lesson. Estelle approached me again. Ma'am, would you like me to prepare a meeting with Michael for this afternoon? He needs to know what has transpired. Yes, Estelle. Set it for 5 o'clock. It's time for my son to know the whole, inconvenient truth. Tiffany, who had heard this while stuffing her belongings into a cardboard box, ran toward me one last time. No, please. Don't tell Michael anything. Let me explain it to him. You're going to explain it with more lies, Tiffany? Your word has no value now. No, I'll tell him the truth. What truth, Tiffany? The truth about how you treated me? The truth about your debts? The truth about the fake promotion? Everything. I'll tell him everything. Too late, dear. You had 2 years to tell the truth. You had an opportunity to apologize after the funeral. You chose to lie every single time. The guards escorted her toward the exit, carrying her box of belongings. At the last moment, she turned and yelled, "This isn't over. I'll fight this in court. I'll sue for wrongful termination." Please do, I replied calmly, adjusting the Mikimoto pearls around my neck. It will be interesting to see how you explain your behavior to a judge. Defamation, creating a hostile work environment, fraud on business documents. I have enough evidence to keep you busy in court for years, and I have the best lawyers in the city on retainer. Her face went completely white before the guards finally ushered her out of the building, and the glass doors hissed shut behind her. Once she was gone, a profound, heavy silence filled the boutique. The employees looked at me with a mixture of respect, admiration, and a little bit of fear. Well, I said finally, breaking the silence, I think we've all learned something valuable today. Now, back to work. Diane approached. Miss Coleman, would you like me to call HR to start the replacement process? I have a few candidates in mind. Yes, but I want the new employee to go through a more rigorous interview process, especially regarding values and customer service. And Diane, I want Chloe to receive an immediate promotion and a raise. Her professionalism today was exemplary. Reward competence and character. Chloe blushed and smiled timidly, her eyes shining with surprise and gratitude. Thank you, Miss Coleman. I won't let you down. Don't thank me yet, Chloe. With the promotion comes more responsibility. I left the boutique feeling strangely empty. The revenge I had planned was complete. The humiliation had been reciprocated tenfold, the financial bomb was set to explode, and the truth was finally out. But now I had to face the hardest part, explaining to my son why I had just destroyed his wife's career. The Widow's Gambit, Part 5, The Revelation and the Test. At 5 o'clock that afternoon, Michael arrived at my modest apartment, his face distraught and pale. He had received my urgent call 2 hours earlier. Mom, what happened? Tiffany came home crying, saying she was unfairly fired and that you had something to do with it. She was hysterical. Sit down, Michael. What I'm about to tell you is going to change a lot of things. You need to prepare yourself. My son sat on the sofa where he had played so many times as a child, where he had come to me for advice during his teenage years. Now, at 38, he looked completely lost, the picture of a man whose carefully constructed reality was crumbling. Mom, Tiffany told me something really strange. She says you own the boutique where she worked. That's impossible, right? You can't be rich. I took a deep, steadying breath. Michael, for your entire life, your father and I have kept the true nature of our family's wealth a secret. It was intentional. What do you mean, our family's wealth? How could you keep that from us? I stood up and walked toward my secret study. Come with me, Michael. It's time you see who your mother really is. When I opened the hidden door behind the bookshelf and the small, luxurious room was revealed, Michael gasped. His expression changed from confusion to utter astonishment as he saw my private office filled with business documents, contracts, and photographs of my multiple boutiques and factories. What is all this? What is this room? This, my son, is the empire your father Robert and I built over the last 40 years. We started with nothing. I showed him the property certificates for the 17 boutiques, the contracts for the 3 textile factories, and the bank statements showing figures he had never imagined. Mom, we're millionaires? We're very rich? Yes, Michael, we are very rich. We have been rich for most of your life. It was a conscious choice. But why? Why did we live like that? Why did you never say anything? Why the Honda Civic and the small apartment? Because I wanted you and Lisa to grow up with real values. I wanted you to understand the value of hard work, humility, and respect for all people, regardless of their status. Money, too soon, can be a poison, Michael. Michael collapsed into a chair, his head spinning. I can't believe it. All this time. And Dad knew? He was a part of the secret. Your father was my partner in everything. My best friend, my confidant, my silent CEO. Together, we decided to keep this secret until the appropriate time to reveal it. The time when you two had established your own moral compasses. And when was the appropriate time going to be, Mom? When you demonstrated you could handle the responsibility. When you showed that your values were firmly established and that you would treat all people with dignity, regardless of what they could or couldn't give you. When you were not blinded by greed or status. Michael looked at me with a mixture of dawning admiration and deep-seated resentment. And what does this have to do with Tiffany being fired? You destroyed her career. That was the question I had been waiting for. I picked up the folder Estelle had prepared with all the evidence. Michael, your wife has been working at one of my boutiques for 2 years. During those 2 years, she demonstrated repeatedly that she mistreats clients based solely on their appearance. She is a professional liability. No, that can't be true. She's a good person, Mom. She's a little focused on status, maybe, but she's not cruel. I pulled out the first report. It's documented here how your wife ignored a 60-year-old lady because she felt she didn't have the appropriate economic profile to shop at the store. She damaged my company's reputation with her snobbery. Michael read the report, frowning, his denial warring with the undeniable evidence. This must be a misunderstanding. She was just busy. A misunderstanding? I pulled out the next document. And this? And this? Each report painted a clear pattern of discriminatory and unprofessional behavior, and he could no longer look away. But the most important thing, Michael, isn't what she did at work. It's what she did to me. What did she do to you? She was harsh about your dress, Mom, but you said you weren't upset. You told me not to worry about it. On the day of your father's funeral, your wife decided to publicly humiliate me because of my clothes. She called me classless. Said I looked like a pauper. She mocked my dress, which cost $80,000, in front of the whole family and all your father's friends. She turned my grief into her personal stage. Michael paled, his eyes wide with a horrific realization. Mom, Tiffany told me she was only trying to help you with your wardrobe. She said she was being charitable. Help me? You thought it was help when she told me I was pathetic, that I was embarrassing the family, that I looked like a beggar? You believed her, Michael. Mom, I didn't. I thought she was just trying to help you understand social norms. You thought it was okay for someone to treat your mother like that because you assumed she was right about my lack of class. You chose your comfort over your mother's dignity. Why didn't you defend me, Michael? Michael had no answer for that. He simply shook his head, shame etched deep on his face. You know what else I discovered today? I continued, pulling out the financial reports. That your wife has been lying about a non-existent promotion. That you two applied for a mortgage based on future income that was never going to materialize. You were both financially ruined without her job. How do you know that, Mom? How could you dig into our finances? Because I'm a businesswoman, Michael. When someone attacks me, I investigate everything about that person. I showed him the documents detailing their debts, their excessive spending, and their desperate financial situation. You owe over $60,000 in credit cards. You live in an apartment that costs more than Tiffany's entire salary. Michael buried his face in his hands, finally defeated. My God. Your wife has been living a complete lie, Michael, flaunting wealth she doesn't have while making fun of others for their apparent lack of resources. She is the fraud. And now what's going to happen to us? We're ruined. What do I do now? Now, Michael, you have to decide what kind of man you want to be. You have to look at your life and ask yourself, can you stand by a woman who humiliated your mother at your father's funeral? Can you honestly acknowledge that you married someone who doesn't share your family's core values, values that you were raised with, values that your father and I protected for your sake? Mom, she's my wife. I love her. And I'm your mother, Michael. The woman who raised you, who taught you about respect and dignity, who sacrificed many comforts to make sure you had an education and values. Where does your loyalty truly lie? Michael was silent for a long time, staring at the floor. What do you want me to do, Mom? Just tell me. I don't want you to do anything, Michael. I want you to make your own decision based on what you know now. You are a grown man. And if I choose to stay with Tiffany, then you'll have to live with the consequences of that choice. The consequence of choosing someone who believes it's appropriate to humiliate older people for sport. And you will have to live with my disappointment in the man you've become. Michael got up and walked to the window, staring out into the setting sun. My entire world is falling apart. It was all fake. No, Michael. Your false world is falling apart. Now you have the opportunity to build something real, something based on honesty, humility, and real respect. That is the gift your father and I left you. Will you help me, Mom? Please don't abandon me. I will always help you, son. Always. But only if you prove you deserve that help. How? By showing me that the man I raised still exists beneath all your wife's toxic influence. You need to find your integrity again. Michael turned to me, tears finally in his eyes. Mom, I'm so sorry I didn't defend you at the funeral. I was a coward. That's the first step, Michael. The most important step. And the second step is that you decide if you want to remain married to a woman who thinks it's okay to mistreat vulnerable people. Your choice will define you. Michael nodded slowly, accepting the burden of the decision. I need time to think, Mom. This is a lot. Of course, Michael. Take your time, but remember, the time you have to think isn't infinite. Some decisions can't be postponed forever. Go home and look hard at the woman you married. Look at the real Tiffany, not the fake one. The Widow's Gambit, Part 6, The Confrontation and the Divorce. 2 days after my confrontation with Michael, my phone rang at 6 o'clock in the morning. It was Lisa, my daughter, and she sounded completely frantic. Mom, what the hell is going on? Michael called me crying at midnight, saying you're a millionaire and that Tiffany got fired from your job. Is any of this true? It's true. Good morning, Lisa. Yes, it's all true. Every word of it. How is it true? Since when are we rich? Why did you never tell me? I've been living in a tiny teacher's apartment. Lisa, come home this morning. It's time for you to know the truth, too. Mom, I'm in total shock. Michael told me about the boutiques, about the money, about what Tiffany did at Dad's funeral. I can't process any of this. That's why you need to come. There are many things to explain, and you need to understand the why as much as the what. 2 hours later, Lisa was sitting in my living room, looking at the same documents I had shown Michael. Her reaction was completely different from her brother's. She didn't have the same financial shock. Her shock was moral. Mom, why did you never trust us? Why the charade? I did trust you, Lisa. I trusted that you would become good people without the corrupting influence of money. I wanted you to build your lives and your character on merit, not on a trust fund. I gave you the gift of a normal life. But we could have had a better life. I could have gone to a private university, had better opportunities. And would you be the same person you are now, Lisa? Would you be the elementary school teacher who works with low-income children and chose her career for passion? Would you have the same values? Lisa paused, thinking deeply. I don't know, Mom. Maybe not. I probably would have married a banker and spent my life shopping. Exactly. I do know. You would have grown up with privileges you wouldn't have appreciated, with a sense of superiority that would have damaged your character. But look what happened to Michael. He married a horrible woman who despises us. Exactly my point, Lisa. Michael chose Tiffany when he thought we were a middle-class family. That tells me there's something in his character that needs to be examined and corrected. What do you mean, Mom? I mean that perhaps Michael was attracted to Tiffany precisely because she represented the status and sophistication he felt he was lacking due to our facade of simplicity. He fell for the trap of superficiality. Lisa frowned. That's pretty deep, Mom. You've thought about this a lot. I've had 72 years to observe human behavior, darling. And me? What do you think of my choices? I smiled, a warm, genuine smile. You chose to be an elementary school teacher. You work with low-income children. You married a good man who is also a teacher. Your values are in the right place, Lisa. You passed the test. So now what? I'm going to inherit all this? You and Michael will inherit everything, but only if you prove you can manage it responsibly. There are conditions, not just a handout. And if Michael chooses to stay with Tiffany? That is a very good question, Lisa. The consequences of his decision are his alone. Just then my phone rang. It was Estelle, my assistant, calling my private line. Miss Coleman, Tiffany Albright is here at the main office. She says she needs to speak with you urgently. She's quite agitated. Tiffany is there? What is she doing? Yes, ma'am. She's been there since 8 o'clock this morning. She's quite agitated and says she won't leave until she speaks with you. She looks very disheveled. I looked at Lisa. Would you like to meet your sister-in-law under more authentic circumstances, Lisa? She's here to beg. You mean? Tiffany is in your corporate office, probably to beg for her job back? I want to go with you, Mom. I need to see this. Perfect. It's time you see exactly what kind of person your brother married. The final confrontation. An hour later, Lisa and I arrived at my executive office in my company's main building. It was a space my children had never seen, marble floors, floor-to-ceiling windows with a panoramic view of the city, designer furniture, and original artwork. My God, Mom, Lisa whispered. This is breathtaking. It's a palace. 40 years of hard work, darling. This is what perseverance builds. Estelle met us in the lobby. She's in the waiting room. She's been there since 8 o'clock this morning. Has she said anything? Only that she needs to speak with you about a terrible injustice, and that she won't leave until you listen to her. She's relying on emotional manipulation. Perfect. Send her into my office in 5 minutes. Give us time to settle. Lisa and I settled into my office. I sat behind my mahogany executive desk, the massive, imposing piece of furniture acting as a physical barrier and a symbol of my power. Lisa sat in a side chair where she could observe the entire interaction without being a direct participant. When Estelle ushered Tiffany in, her transformation was evident. She was no longer the arrogant, self-assured woman from the funeral or the boutique. She had deep circles under her eyes, her makeup was smudged, and her clothes were wrinkled, as if she had slept in them. The facade of perfection had completely collapsed. Miss Coleman, she began immediately, her voice shaky and desperate. Thank you for seeing me. I know I made terrible mistakes, but I need you to understand my situation. I have nowhere else to turn. Sit down, Tiffany. It was then she noticed Lisa. Lisa? What are you doing here? This is a private matter. Hello, Tiffany, Lisa said, her voice cool and steady. I'm here learning about people's true character. Please continue. Tiffany flushed, embarrassed, but her need was too great to back down. She turned back to me. Ma'am, I've come to ask for a second chance. I know I behaved badly, but I can change. I promise you. You can change? Tell me how. Yes, completely. I can be different. I can be the best employee you've ever had. Tiffany, tell me exactly what you think you did wrong. Be specific. Tiffany thought for a moment, still focused on the superficial. Well, I shouldn't have spoken that way about you at work, that's all. And I shouldn't have used my phone during work hours. That was unprofessional. Anything else, Tiffany? Tiffany thought for a long, agonizing moment. And I shouldn't have been late a few times. I was disorganized. Lisa and I exchanged a glance that said everything. Tiffany truly didn't understand the gravity of what she had done. She still thought her crime was tardiness, not moral depravity. Tiffany, I said patiently, leaning forward over the desk. What about the funeral? The funeral? What about it? I was in shock that day. Yes, my husband Robert's funeral. Do you recall anything specific from that day, Tiffany? Anything that might have offended me? Well, I was trying to help you with your image. Help you understand what to wear. I was trying to be a good daughter-in-law. Help me. Yes. I thought if I gave you advice on how to dress better, how to look more elegant. Lisa interrupted her, her voice cutting like glass. Tiffany, do you really think publicly humiliating someone at their husband's memorial service is helping? Do you think that was kindness? I didn't humiliate her. I was only being honest. Her dress was horrible. Someone had to say it. There it is, Lisa, I said, looking at my daughter. The real problem. She doesn't believe she did anything wrong. She believes she was justified in her cruelty. But I can learn. Tiffany insisted desperately. I can take customer service classes. I can go to therapy. Whatever it takes. I'm motivated now. And why would you do all that, Tiffany? What is your motivation? Because I need the job. We have huge debts. The house we wanted to buy. Michael will hate me if we lose everything because of me. I'm scared. Interesting, I murmured. You haven't mentioned feeling any remorse about hurting me. You've only mentioned remorse about the consequences that brought upon you. Tiffany opened her mouth, but no words came out. She was trapped by her own words. Do you feel bad about hurting me, Tiffany, or do you feel bad about the fact that I have the power to destroy your life? There is a very important difference between those two things. I feel bad about hurting you. I truly do. When did you start feeling that, Tiffany? At the funeral when you were calling me classless? Or when you found out who I really am? Tiffany started to cry again, the tears of self-pity flowing freely. Please, Miss Coleman, don't punish me for the rest of my life for one mistake. One mistake. Lisa stood up from her chair, her patience completely gone. You call humiliating a 72-year-old widow at her husband's funeral one mistake? You call lying to my brother about your job for 2 years one mistake? Lisa, please. You don't understand. No, Tiffany. You've been married to my brother for 2 years, and you never, not once, showed genuine respect for my mother. You constantly belittled her, her home, her clothes. That's a pattern, not a mistake. I pulled another document from my desk, a small, laminated paper. I have reports here from 3 family gatherings where you made dismissive comments about my taste, my clothes, my house. Those weren't mistakes, Tiffany. Those were casual comments that revealed your true opinion of me. Tiffany turned to Lisa desperately. Belle, talk to your mother. Tell her to give me another chance. Why would I do that, Tiffany? Because you're my brother's wife? We're family. Lisa responded firmly. Family treats each other with respect. Something you never understood. But I can learn. I'm a quick study. At 37 years old, I asked. Tiffany, if you haven't learned basic respect for others at this point in your life, you won't learn it now. You'll only learn to pretend to be respectful when there is something in it for you. That is not character. That's not fair. That's a judgment. Not fair? You know what's not fair, Tiffany? That a 72-year-old woman has to endure public humiliation on the most painful day of her life. You know what else isn't fair? That my employees have to work with someone who constantly makes them feel bad about themselves. You poisoned my environment. I never what? Never told your colleagues that certain clients didn't belong in the boutique? Never made comments about people's status based solely on their appearance? The recordings don't lie, Tiffany. Tiffany fell silent, finally unable to deny the mountains of evidence. Tiffany, the problem isn't that you made mistakes. The problem is that your behavior revealed your true, cold character. My true character can change. I know it can. No, Tiffany. Your behavior can change out of convenience, but your character is already formed. You are who you are. She broke down completely, sobbing uncontrollably, her head bowed in defeat. Then there's nothing I can do. I'm ruined. There is something you can do, Tiffany. One last thing. She lifted her head, hopeful, clinging to the smallest thread. What? I'll do anything. You can be honest with Michael about who you really are. That is your final task. What do you mean? You can go home, sit down with Michael, and tell him the complete truth about who you are, what you've done, and why you did it. Tell him you saw his family as beneath you. And if I do that, you'll give me my job back? No, Tiffany. Her face fell. Then what's the point of doing it? Because it's the right thing to do, Tiffany. For the first time in a long time, you have the opportunity to do something simply because it is morally correct. Do it for your soul, not your bank account. But I need to work. You'll find another job, but you will never work in any of my companies again. And if Michael leaves me, that is a decision he has to make based on complete information. Tiffany slowly rose, defeated, the light gone from her eyes. You win, Miss Coleman. You've destroyed me completely. No, Tiffany. You destroyed yourself. I simply refuse to remain your victim. Now go. Go and tell my son the truth. That night, Michael called. His voice was broken, tired, and deeply ashamed. Mom. Tiffany told me everything. Everything. The lies about her job, the debt she hid, what she truly thinks of our family. She told me she married me because she thought I would give her status. And she also told me something else, Mom. What was that, Michael? She told me that during our entire marriage, she never felt you were good enough for me. She was always trying to upgrade me. She had no respect for you. My heart broke a little, but I had known this was coming. I see. That is the deepest cut. Mom, I'm so sorry I was so blind. I'm sorry I failed you when you needed me most. I let her humiliate you. And what are you going to do now, Michael? What does the man I raised decide? I already did it. I asked her for a divorce. I can't live with her lies or her cruelty anymore. I felt a rush of relief and a wave of profound sadness for the end of his marriage. How do you feel, son? Devastated, Mom, but also liberated. As if I've been carrying a weight I didn't know I had. I feel lighter. That's normal, son. You chose integrity over comfort. You made your father proud. The Widow's Gambit. Part 7, The Inheritance. The next day, my two children, Michael and Lisa, were sitting in my living room, now fully aware of the truth about our family. The secrecy was over. Mom, Michael said, looking me in the eye, his voice clear and earnest. I want to formally apologize not just for not defending you at the funeral, but for all the years I didn't fully appreciate what you had done for us. I missed the point of my life. I want to apologize too, Mom, Lisa added, for questioning your decision to keep the secret. I understand now that you gave us something more valuable than money. You gave us real values and you tested them. Your apologies are accepted, but they weren't necessary. You both acted with the information you had at the time. Now you act with the truth. And now what? Michael asked. How do we proceed from here? What do we do with all this money? Now? I told them, standing up to walk to my desk. It's time for you to learn about your inheritance. I showed them the documents I had prepared years ago, dividing my empire equally between them, but with specific, character-building conditions. Michael, you will inherit the boutiques and the textile factories, but there is a condition. It's a 5-year commitment. What is it, Mom? You have to work in the business for 5 years, starting from the bottom. You will start as a floor salesman, like Tiffany, learning every aspect of the operation, from the bottom up. I want you to understand what it's like to deal with all types of customers, what it's like to earn the respect of the employees, what it's like to build something through hard work. You must earn the CEO title. Michael nodded solemnly, a determined look in his eyes. I accept, Mom. I'll start Monday. Lisa, you will inherit the real estate properties and the financial investments, but your condition is different. It's a moral condition. What is it, Mom? I'll do anything. I want you to use a significant portion of that inheritance to create charitable foundations, especially focused on education for low-income children. Give back the gift of opportunity that you were given. Lisa's eyes filled with tears of genuine happiness. Mom, that's perfect. I would love that. But you both have one additional condition that is non-negotiable. The final rule. What is it? They asked in unison. You can never, ever use your wealth or your position to mistreat, humiliate, or belittle other people. The money I'm giving you comes with the responsibility to use it to uplift others, not to belittle them. It is a sacred trust. Of course, Mom, Michael said, and Lisa nodded vehemently. And if I ever discover that you are using your position to humiliate or belittle someone, you will lose your entire inheritance immediately. Understood. Understood, they both said, their voices firm and clear. The Widow's Gambit, Part 8, The Redemption. 6 months later, I was sitting in my corporate office reviewing the monthly reports when Estelle walked in with a smile on her face. "Ma'am, you have a visitor. I think you should see this for yourself." Michael walked into my office, but he didn't look like the Michael who was divorced and defeated. He was wearing the floor salesman's uniform from the boutique, a name tag pinned neatly to his shirt. He had a different energy in his eyes and a genuine, honest smile on his face. "Hey, Mom. Do you have a minute to talk to one of your employees?" "I'm on my lunch break." "Of course, Michael. How's your first month going as a salesman? Are you still taking my Honda to work?" "It's the hardest job I've ever done in my life, and also the most gratifying." "I love it, Mom. I've learned more about people in 6 months than I did in 30 years. Tell me about it. What was your biggest lesson?" "Yesterday, I served a woman who came in dressed very simply. She was a widow, like you, and clearly didn't have much money. My old, poisoned instincts told me to direct her to the clearance section, to treat her like a charity case. And what did you do?" "I gave her the exact same treatment I would give any other client. I showed her the whole store, explained the quality, and made her feel like the most important person in the world. She bought a $50 scarf, but Mom, the smile on her face was priceless. She told me it had been years since anyone had treated her with such kindness in a store. I made her day. I felt my heart swell with pride. The revenge was complete. Not because of Tiffany's ruin, but because of Michael's redemption." "And how did that make you feel, Michael?" "Like I finally understood what you and Dad tried to teach me all these years. That the real value is in the dignity you give to others." At that moment, I knew I had made the right decision. The pain of Robert's funeral, the public humiliation, the destruction of Tiffany's career, it had all been worth it to reach this moment. "Michael," I told him, a single, genuine tear of joy rolling down my cheek. "Your father would be so proud of the man you've become. And I am immensely proud of you." He came around my desk and took my hands, his touch warm and real. "Mom, there's something else I want to tell you. The most important thing." "What is it, Michael?" "Thank you for not letting me stay married to a woman who didn't respect you. Thank you for teaching me that real love includes defending the people you love, especially when they can't defend themselves. You saved me, Mom." The Widow's Gambit, Part 9, The Aftermath. "And Tiffany? I heard she's struggling financially, working at a discount department store now. I don't follow her social media anymore, but Michael tells me she's been humbled, stripped of her false status. Did I feel bad about that now? No. I felt bad about the time I lost being blind to her true nature, but I don't feel bad about the natural consequences of her actions. Justice isn't always kind, but it is always fair." 3 months later, I received an unexpected call on my personal, untraceable cell phone. It was Tiffany. "Miss Coleman, I know you probably don't want to talk to me, but I wanted to thank you. Thank you for teaching me the hardest lesson of my life. For showing me that actions have real consequences. And what have you learned, Tiffany? That respect isn't based on how much money someone has. That true elegance comes from how you treat people, especially those who can't help you in any way. I'm starting over." "I'm glad to hear that, Tiffany. I wish you well in your future endeavors. I hope the lesson sticks." I hung up the phone, feeling completely at peace. The revenge had been sweet, yes, but the true satisfaction came from knowing that I had protected the values my husband and I had built over a lifetime. Justice had arrived, not just as vengeance, but as education, and that was the most important lesson of all. The Widow's Gambit, Part 10, Final Conclusion. Michael was officially appointed CEO of Coleman Holdings, but he insisted on retaining the simple blue-collar work uniform, often walking the floor of the factories just to feel the honest rhythm of the business. Lisa, meanwhile, used her inheritance to launch the Robert Coleman Foundation for Arts and Education, providing scholarships and resources for children from low-income families, a tribute to the simple, decent life her father had insisted upon. I, Susan Coleman, finally shed the last remnants of the poor widow facade. I sold the Honda Civic, donating the proceeds to Lisa's foundation, and moved permanently into my mountain retreat, where I oversaw my empire remotely, focused entirely on the philanthropic and ethical future of the Coleman name. As I sat on my terrace, overlooking the world, a deep sense of peace settled over me. Robert, my love, had told me not to let anyone trample on me. I had done more than defend myself. I had transformed the venom of cruelty into a lasting legacy of integrity for my children. The greatest wealth was never the money. It was the unyielding character that money could not buy and that time could not diminish. The widow's gambit was a success, forever enshrining the truth that in the end, class always trumps cash.